Ask and you shall receive. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Matt of Pig and Matt here. So, as that little thing at the beginning of this video showed you guys, somebody in my comment section asked me to make a Crusadia deck list for you guys for under $50. Now, that was kind of a vague question, and upon thinking about it, I decided, you know what? I'm going to take that and I'm going to do something kind of wild with it. So I decided to take the $50 that that person asked me to make a deck out of and do just that. I built a $50 Crusadia deck. And that $50 encompasses the main deck, the extra deck, and including even the side deck. So yes, the question today is, can I budget? And, well, let's see if I can, folks. Alright, so how this video is going to work is that I'm going to go over the deck, the various cards that I think are necessary to build the deck, so, you know, the core, and then after the core, you're going to see kind of the, what I would consider necessary tech, and then after that, all of the kind of fillerish cards in order to kind of, you know, get the deck functioning the rest of the way and within the budget. And then of course accompanying each of these will be a nice little price guide that shows you guys the ongoing tally of the cost of the whole deck in question. And then of course you're also going to see at the very end if I met the budget. And if you're curious how the prices were gathered, I basically took the market price of the cards in question within the time frame that I recorded this video, and I just kind of used that because while sometimes people can make a listing for a penny, that's not always the case. So I just kind of figured the easiest way to do it would be to just, you know, use the market price. So yeah, that is what all the prices in question are. I used tcgplayer.com in order to get all the prices. And with all of that out of the way, let's get to talking about Crusadia. Oh yeah, by the way, I should probably mention that the cards you're going to see in this video are not necessarily the cheapest version of every card that I used. I just happen to use the ones I have on hand. So if you see kind of weird mismatched rarities or very not cheap versions of the cards in question, it's because I literally just grabbed what I had on hand. So let's go with the BS and show you, you know, some Crusadias. Alright, so you're playing Crusadia. So of course, obviously, you have to start out with maxed out copies of every single Crusadia monster. No questions asked, no changes, nothing. You just have to play every single one of them because you need them. Alright. Now since you're kind of playing pure Crusadias and you're just doing the OTK, I find that this to be kind of also necessary because all these cards help serve a good function, with Revival being an extra 500 boost as well as letting your Equimax punch everything. Power kind of being a lance or like a pseudo called by. Same thing with Testament, which can also be a draw card if necessary. And then the one crawler, because you still do manage, even on a budget, to be able to play a couple of cheeky World Legacy cards. Then to round out what I believe you absolutely have to play regardless is 3 copies of Crusadia Magius, Since we're on a budget, we're doing 3 copies of Regulex, 1 copy of Spatha. You will, in fact, use her effect to move a card, and she is, pennies on the dollar. 2 copies of the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's kind of your win con. And surprisingly enough, because of the reprint, for less than $6, you do actually get to run a copy of Crusadia Avermax, and because of the way this version worked in testing, I do believe you actually need it, because sometimes if you can't completely use Equimax to kind of negate a card, a lot of decks have a really hard time getting over this card. So on to the cards that I would consider necessary to fit within the budget regardless. The one World Legacy World Crown, it's another negate, and you can search it off of Regulator. 3 copies of Parallel Exceed, absolutely mandatory as far as I'm concerned. The one Called by the Grave, because you need something to stop hand traps, and even on a budget, this is still worth budgeting for. The one Monster Reborn has a bunch of prints, and it's about the best card you can use to extend. I opted for 3 copies of Hey Trunade. It is the cheapest way to get rid of as much back row as possible. And you know what else is the cheapest way to make sure you don't have to deal with back row? Red Reboot. So that would be the absolutely mandatory tech. Alright, and to round out the rest of the deck, you play the cheapest kaiju of them all, who just luckily happens to be one of the biggest. Ranryu, they're a super cheap, easy special summon if you have your Magius. Forbidden Chalice, aka Budget Imperm. Because of King's Court, you now can afford to run this card super easily. But if you can, you might want to make some cuts to the extra deck to try to put in the other World Legacy card that's just a straight Monster Reborn, but we'll get to that some other time. And to round out the rest of your extra deck, the necessary, absolutely necessary Link Spider, Nightmares of Unicorn and Phoenix, where I put kind of the rest of my budget after I made the side deck, and Apollosa, the Bow Goddess. She's kind of somewhat necessary because she kind of gives you a first turn play in some portions, and in other portions she kind of gives you a backup monster. I kind of really like the fact that I chose to play her. Also really like the fact that I chose to fit in as the lone rank for Abyss Dweller. This card's fantastic and has a $1.25 market price printing. So yeah, thanks Konami. Alright, so with the budget left, I was able to have this side deck to work with. 3 copies of Artifact Lancia, the 1 Dino Wrestler Prankertops. I opted for 2 copies of Book of Moon, 3 Twin Twisters. These should be in the main, I'm just going to say that right now. 3 copies of Shared Ride, and you're only going first Floodgate. There can be only one. So there we go, people. The main extra inside. You see the numbers after crunching them all up. Gotta ask yourself, can we budget? And also while we're at it, how did we do at locals? Well, people. So yeah, as you can clearly see, you can build a full main extra and side deck for under $50. I mean, you are pushing it real close, but yes, in fact, you can do it. And I figure I should probably explain the title of this video, because if I'm going to budget, well, I gotta actually take the deck and see if it performs. And the only way to do that is to, go to locals. So, as I was brainstorming and doing all of this, I proceeded to take this to my locals, and, well, for some ungodly reason, we had a really decent turnout, so we had to play 5 rounds of Yu-Gi-Oh! And if that was any way to test a deck, well, there we had it. And to my surprise, I managed to actually go 4-1 with this pile of cardboard. And via tiebreakers and shenanigans, I actually managed to get 2nd place at locals with this budget Crusadia deck. So, to answer the question again, I very much can budget, and to my surprise and delight, if you work hard enough, you can, perform very, very well in a local environment with a budget that small. And I figure I should elaborate about kind of the locals' experience playing this deck. It's a going second Crusadia. That's pretty much what I thought would be the best and most ideal way to do the deck, especially on such a tight-knit budget, because you can't really do the Dragon Link stuff without necessary Dragon Link cards. And all the Dragon Link stuff, still, even after multiple reprints, isn't budget. There's always another card and another card. So I was like, you know what? Screw that. And then on top of that, the reason I like the going second so much is because Kaiju's out everything. They just do the job. And after telling you that, I can really tell you that I only had to deal with 1 Dragoon, and I managed to actually Kaiju it, but I damn near lost the game because I couldn't do as good a follow-up as I can with a more budgeted build. But basically, most of my games kind of amounted to either you sit on Equimax and you just kind of, use his negate properly, or in some cases, if Equimax wasn't good enough, I actually made Avermax and then, well, just kind of slowly piddled away and beat through resources. The matchups in question that I played at this local were a new guy who's just trying to get into the game, so I was very patient, and awkwardly, I lost our first game because I bricked so hard and had to deal with Rivalry of the Warlords. In fact, I had to deal with that card a lot today, and Gozen match in my last matchup against Madolches. And then, so, new guy, I had to play against Madolches. I had to play against Virtual World, which was a real back and forth game, very slow rolling, but I managed to do it by game 3 just by sheer power of, using the right cards at the right time. I played against, see, our new guy, Madolche, Virtual World. Oh yeah, the Poker Night deck I posted on here, and that deck was so much fun to play against. And it also really, really hurt me because my opponent knew my deck and knew exactly what card to Solemn Strike. This is the other thing. They Solemn Strike the hell out of my Regulex and my little Maximus, and I had to deal with so many Ash Blossoms and stuff, and I'm like, man, can we just have 3 called by already? But that probably wouldn't have been a budget card by that point. But yeah, so there was that, and then, let me think. Oh, I played against Guru, and that was literally the only game where Hey Trunade was a good card. To be honest with you, if y'all are building this yourself, for whatever reason, replace the Hey Trunades with Twin Twisters, your life will be so much better. But in that one case, it was a decent card, because it just put his back row back, put a big number on board, and then just punch through everything. So yeah, I managed, to win that matchup and finish locals with a 4-1 record, which blew my mind that I could do this with a budget deck. So yeah, it was great. And I figure I should probably include this little tidbit, to let you know, which, sorry for the length of the video, just kind of comes with the process of this being the first episode of Can I Budget? And then you got to ask yourself, well, what's a budget deck look like? So yeah. I hope you enjoyed. If you stuck through, you're awesome. And, timestamps obviously below for those that didn't care to. So yeah, this is Meh, Pig and Meh, signing out.